Okay, 4b, it says, what would you expect to be the heterozygous frequency? So heterozygous frequency is what they're asking for tasting gene. So the part of our formula that determines the heterozygous frequency is the 2pq part, and that's what they're asking for. Okay, record your answer to 2 decimal places. Always be very careful with this because you don't want to do all these calculations and then input it in incorrectly and get the question wrong. And it says, then there's an added part, but let's just do this first part first. So we know from the previous question 4a that p equaled 0.5, and that was our q value as well. So we'll just recalculate that from questions 4a. And now we're just going to pop those into the formula. So 2 times 0.5 times 0.5. And that gives us 2pq equaling 0.50. Now that's the first part of the question. They're asking for the frequency of the heterozygous. That's what we get. But then they ask you one additional piece of information here. They said, how many people does that actually represent to the nearest whole person? We don't want half people. So the nearest whole person, would that represent in a class of 125 students? So again, there's the total. So this is the other part of the calculation. It's in your notes, but we're just going to go over it now. What you do is you take your frequency of the decimal for the heterozygous, which is 0.50, and simply multiply that by the total number of individuals in the actual study. So that would be 125. Okay, so when you calculate that, I believe it comes out to something like 62.5. But we want to take a look at the number of whole people. We don't want half people. So we're going to take that 5, round it up to 63 actual students that in a class of 125, based on those calculations, would be heterozygous. So this is just the second part, or second piece of that question right there. So again, when they're asking for the number of individuals that represents, just take the frequency that you calculated first, multiply it by the total number, and you'll get the number of students that actually represents in our study. Okay, any questions? Just give me an email. Thanks, guys.